Historian John Mitchell, while studying historical materials related to the Pacific War, unexpectedly discovered that he had traveled to 1941 and became a famous U.S. Navy general, Frank Jack Fletcher. John attempted to influence the future of the Pacific theater of war through his own proposals and decisions. Try to be hardcore and keep the fleet from Pearl Harbor to Tokyo Bay. Chapter 1. The Heavy Deduction of History. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When John Mitchell woke up in the dimly lit room, he felt an unprecedented sense of confusion and fear. His memory still lingers on that night in 2024, when he was researching historical information about the Pacific War. But now, he found himself lying on an iron bed on a warship, wearing the uniform of the United States Navy. He sat up hard, feeling the weight and discomfort of his body. His gaze fell on the mirror, and the face reflected in the mirror shocked him. It was not himself, but the famous naval commander in history, Frank Jack Fletcher. His heart skipped a beat, staring in disbelief at the mirror. This discovery made him feel a strong sense of unreality. He is a historian who knows Fletcher's life and achievements like the back of his hand, but how could he suddenly become Fletcher himself? He took a deep breath, trying to calm his emotions. John knew that if all of this was true, then he might be at a time before the Pearl Harbor incident. As Fletcher, he will play an important role in the upcoming Pacific War. He slowly walked out of the cabin, and occasionally crew members would pass by quickly in the corridor. He attempted to capture clues to the timeline from these brief communications. A young naval lieutenant walked over and saluted. "Good morning, Major General Fletcher. The weather seems good today, suitable for sailing training," said the lieutenant with respect and anticipation on his face. John nodded slightly, but he was pondering this message in his heart. If it were a major general, then he might have been on the eve of the Pearl Harbor attack. He needs more information to confirm. "Lieutenant, do you have any special arrangements today?" John asked tentatively. In addition to routine patrols and exercises, the colonel has arranged a discussion on the safety of Pearl Harbor. "There seems to be some new intelligence about the Japanese Army's movements," the lieutenant replied. This conversation strengthened John's conjecture. The safety of Pearl Harbor, the movements of the Japanese Army. This was undoubtedly the end of 1941. John Mitchell appeared as Frank Jack Fletcher, standing on the flight deck of the flagship aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, CV.5, of the fleet he commanded. The sea breeze gently brushed against his cheek, and before him was an endless blue sea of the Pacific Ocean. The sun emerged from the clouds, casting a dazzling light. Surrounded by tense and orderly preparations. The officers and soldiers of the fleet are conducting daily exercises, and some crew members are inspecting the aircraft on board to ensure that these fighter jets and bombers are ready to take off at any time. John felt the heavy pressure as a fleet commander. It was not just a personal test for him, but also an application of his knowledge of history. As one of the main aircraft carriers of the United States Navy, the USS Yorktown is equipped with the latest radar system and powerful firepower. Its existence is crucial for maintaining the U.S. Navy's advantage in the Pacific region. The USS Yorktown, CV.5, was a major aircraft carrier of the United States Navy during World War II, and its design and construction represented the advanced level of aircraft carrier technology at that time. John's gaze wandered on the busy crew and neatly arranged carrier-based aircraft on the deck. This aircraft carrier is not only a symbol of the U.S. Navy, but also a key factor in exerting its influence in this era. Just as he was immersed in these thoughts, a communication officer hurried over and interrupted his contemplation. "Major General Fletcher, we have received an urgent communication from headquarters requesting us to attend an intelligence discussion meeting on the movements of the Japanese Army." The voice of the communication officer revealed a sense of urgency. John nodded. This meeting may determine the future direction of the entire Pacific theater of war. He walked quickly towards the bridge, preparing to attend this crucial meeting. As he crossed the bridge towards the conference room, he couldn't help but glance back at the aircraft carrier behind him. He felt an unprecedented pressure and sense of responsibility. As Fletcher, every command and choice he makes will affect the direction of the entire war. Meanwhile, he now has the opportunity to change history. As he walked towards the conference room, he constantly reminded himself that despite his knowledge of the future, he was still an officer in this era and must abide by the rules and discipline of the military. His heart is filled with complex emotions, ranging from fear of upcoming challenges to determination to change history. He took a deep breath, tidied up his military uniform, and then walked firmly into the conference room. // The following is a detailed description of some key data and features of the Yorktown. Basic specifications: displacement. Approximately 19,800 tons of standard displacement, up to 25,500 tons at full load. Dimensions. The ship has a total length of 824 feet, 251 meters, and a maximum width of 109 feet, 33 meters. Power system. Using a steam turbine, powered by 8 oil boilers, with a total power of 120,000 horsepower. Speed. The maximum speed is about 34 knots, about 63 kilometers per hour. Endurance. At an economic speed of 15 knots, approximately 28 kilometers per hour, the Endurance can reach 12,500 nautical miles, approximately 23,150 kilometers. Weapons and equipment: carrier-based aircraft. Capable of carrying approximately 70.90 different types of aircraft, including fighter jets, bombers, and reconnaissance planes. Anti-aircraft weapons. Equipped with multiple anti-aircraft guns, including 50 caliber machine guns and 1.1 inch/75 caliber multi-barrel anti-aircraft guns, as well as 5 inch/38 caliber single-mounted anti-aircraft guns. Radar system. Equipped with the most advanced shipborne radar system at that time, used for detecting targets at sea and in the air. Combat record: service time. The Yorktown was commissioned in 1937 and is the first ship of the U.S. Navy's Yorktown-class aircraft carrier. Main campaign. During the Pacific War, the USS Yorktown participated in several important naval battles, including the Battle of Coral Sea and the Battle of Midway. Especially in the Battle of Midway, it played a crucial role, but also sank in this battle. Fleet status: strategic importance. As one of the main aircraft carriers of the United States Navy, the USS Yorktown plays a crucial role in the Pacific theater of operations, and its presence is crucial for maintaining and expanding America's military advantage in the Pacific. The design, equipment, and combat records of the Yorktown reflect the advanced technology and powerful combat capabilities of the United States Navy at that time. It is not only a warship, but also a vibrant and dynamic mobile military base, symbolizing the power of the United States Navy. // Chapter 2. Controversies in meetings. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Frank Jack Fletcher sat in the conference room, looking around at the senior officers. A tense atmosphere permeated the room. Participating in the discussion were the corps officers of the Pacific Fleet, including Admiral Kinmayre, who was a staunch supporter of battleships and firmly believed that artillery and armor were the key to naval warfare. General Kinmayre spoke up: "I believe we need to strengthen the deployment of battleships in the Pacific. Only with strong firepower and sturdy armor can we have an advantage when facing the Japanese." Fletcher nodded lightly, understanding Jin's point of view, but he had different thoughts in his heart. He knows that future naval battles will increasingly rely on air power. He responded, "General Jin, I respect your point of view. However, I believe that the role of aircraft carriers and carrier-based aircraft in modern warfare cannot be ignored. We should consider making more use of aviation power." Admiral Jin frowned, clearly surprised by Fletcher's opinion. He retorted, "Major General Fletcher, I understand the importance of aircraft carriers, but we cannot ignore the value of traditional naval power. Battleships remain the protagonist of naval warfare. Another officer, Rear Admiral Raymond Spruance, joined the discussion at this time. He is a representative of the aircraft carrier faction, although he is currently serving as the commander of the cruiser fleet under General Halsey's 17 Special Operations Squadron. I agree with Fletcher's view that aircraft carriers have a longer range of attack and higher flexibility. We should consider them as the main force, he said. Admiral Jean shook his head, expressing disagreement. He insisted on his position. I don't deny the value of aircraft carriers, but in my opinion, they are still auxiliary forces. We need powerful battleships to ensure maritime superiority. This discussion is not only about the debate between tactics and strategy, but also about the collision of naval tactical ideas. The meeting lasted for several hours, discussing various tactics and strategies. Despite differing opinions, Fletcher maintains his own view that aviation power is the key to future naval battles. In addition to the debate between General Kim and Major General Spruance, another important officer, Lieutenant General William Halsey, was also present during the tense meeting. Halsey was a courageous naval commander known for his decisiveness and aggressiveness, and he had a profound understanding of the tactical value of aircraft carriers. Halsey's attitude during the meeting was very clear, supporting the views of Fletcher and Spruance, emphasizing the importance of aircraft carriers. He said, "We cannot rely solely on the firepower of battleships. The mobility and long-range strike capability of aircraft carriers will be the key to our fight against the Japanese in the Pacific." Halsey's voice was firm and full of confidence. If we can effectively leverage the advantages of aircraft carriers, we have the opportunity to take the initiative in the Pacific. I believe that aircraft carriers should be the core of our strategic planning. Although General Jean has reservations about this, he also recognizes Halsey's tactical talent and knows that his opinions are worth taking seriously. These officers represent different strategic ideas of the United States Navy. As the meeting deepened, the discussion shifted to the distribution of the Japanese Combined Fleet's forces in the Pacific and a comparison of the U.S. Pacific Fleet's forces. This was 1941, when the international situation was tense and the activities of the Japanese Army were increasing, which posed a serious challenge to the strategic deployment of the U.S. military. Halsey first proposed an evaluation of the Japanese military strength. According to our intelligence, the Japanese Combined Fleet has deployed important forces in the Pacific, including multiple battleships and aircraft carriers, as well as support vessels and submarines. Their aircraft carriers are particularly noteworthy as their presence significantly enhances the Japanese long-range strike capability. Major General Spruance continued, "Indeed, the Japanese aircraft carrier fleet is a threat that cannot be ignored. Although our Pacific fleet is strong, its number of carriers is slightly insufficient. Currently, we mainly rely on our battleships and cruisers, as well as some aircraft carriers." Admiral Jean added, "However, our battleships have an advantage in firepower and armor. This will play a crucial role in close combat. We need to maintain maritime control over the Pacific to prevent further expansion by the Japanese." Fletcher listened to their discussion and pondered his own position. He was aware that although the U.S. Pacific Fleet may not be as strong as the Japanese in certain aspects, it still had potential advantages in aviation capabilities and tactical flexibility. Therefore, he put forward his own viewpoint. "We do need to value the Japanese aircraft carriers, but we cannot ignore our own aviation capabilities. I suggest that we strengthen our investment in aircraft carriers and improve the combat effectiveness of our carrier-based aircraft. This will enable us to maintain flexibility and responsiveness in the Pacific theater." Fletcher also felt the pressure of being a senior general. He not only needs to find a balance among these officers, but also ensures that his views can be effectively conveyed and implemented. As a fleet commander, the direction of war and the lives and deaths of many people may be within his grasp. In the end, although a complete consensus was not reached, the meeting decided to strengthen the overall combat readiness of the Pacific Fleet, especially by increasing the importance of aircraft carriers and carrier-based aircraft. In the tense meeting, although Fletcher had a deep premonition of the upcoming Pearl Harbor attack, he found that his concerns had not received enough attention among other senior officers. Although Halsey and several other officers had intense discussions about strategic deployment in the Pacific region, it was widely believed that the Japanese were unlikely to launch a direct attack on an important U.S. military base like Pearl Harbor. General Jean even said, "Although we cannot completely eliminate the threat from the Japanese army, I believe they are unlikely to take such a big risk. Our deployment in Pearl Harbor is strong enough to deter any direct attack." Fletcher attempted to present his own viewpoint, but his opinions were not given sufficient attention during the meeting. But he still didn't give up. "We do need to be vigilant against all possible actions by the Japanese army. Although Pearl Harbor seems safe, we should consider strengthening reconnaissance and vigilance just in case." However, this cautious attitude was not popular among the senior management of the Navy at that time. Most officers are more focused on strengthening the traditional naval power of the Pacific Fleet and have not given sufficient attention to potential aviation threats. In the international situation of 1941, Europe had already fallen into a full-scale war, and the tension in the Pacific region was constantly escalating. Although the United States has not yet officially entered the war, it is strengthening its support for allies and strengthening military preparations in the Pacific region to address potential threats from Japan. However, the senior management of the U.S. Navy generally holds an optimistic attitude towards the safety of Pearl Harbor. They believe that it is unlikely for the Japanese army to launch such a bold attack without declaring war. Fletcher felt a deep sense of defeat after the meeting ended. He knew what was about to happen in history, but he found it difficult to change the traditional beliefs of these experienced officers. In his heart, he had profound concerns about the upcoming surprise attack, but at the same time, he also realized that despite being an important figure in history, his abilities and influence were still limited. Fletcher decided to do everything he could to increase the vigilance and readiness of the fleet under his command. "Even if we cannot stop the development of history, we must make every effort to mitigate the upcoming blow." Chapter 3. Inner Planning. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After the meeting, Fletcher left the conference room filled with worries and plans. Although he was unable to change the overall view of the higher-ups during the meeting, as the commander of the fleet, he still had the opportunity to make some changes from his own perspective. Walking back to his cabin, Fletcher began to ponder. His focus is on how to enhance the U.S. military's aviation capabilities and naval tactics. Although the existing fleet is powerful, the U.S. military needs more flexible and efficient response strategies when facing the flexibility and long-range strike capabilities of Japanese aircraft carriers. The task force commanded by Fletcher has significant strategic and tactical value in the Pacific theater of operations. As the core of the fleet, aircraft carriers provide powerful air power and long-range strike capabilities. Their existence greatly enhances the flexibility of the U.S. military in maritime operations and its ability to respond to enemy threats. Cruisers and destroyers provide necessary firepower support and protection, allowing aircraft carriers to leverage their air superiority in a relatively safe environment. These ships played an important role in defending the fleet from enemy submarines and light vessels. Fletcher was aware that although his fleet did not include heavy battleships, he could pose a serious threat to the Japanese army by effectively utilizing a combination of aircraft carriers and rapid response vessels, and quickly adjust tactical deployments when necessary. In terms of the army, although the equipment of the U.S. military is superior to that of the Japanese in some aspects, there are shortcomings in terms of quantity and deployment. The tanks and artillery of the U.S. Army were relatively advanced in technology, but they were unable to cope with the large-scale deployment of the Japanese Army in Asia. In terms of Air Force, the overall performance of U.S. fighter jets and bombers is superior to that of the Japanese Army, but there are gaps in tactical application and experience. The Japanese Zero fighter jet is known for its excellent maneuverability and combat efficiency, posing a significant threat to the U.S. military. In terms of the Navy, although the United States Navy has significant advantages in battleships and cruisers, it lags slightly behind in terms of the quantity and quality of aircraft carriers and carrier-based aircraft. The Japanese aircraft carrier tactics are mature and possess strong long-range strike capabilities. Carrier-based aircraft can perform aerial superiority, bombing, and reconnaissance missions, while cruisers and destroyers provide necessary firepower support and air defense protection. This comprehensive armed configuration makes Fletcher's fleet a force that cannot be underestimated in the Pacific. On this basis, Fletcher began to think about how to further improve the overall combat efficiency of the fleet, especially in nighttime operations and rapid response, in order to gain an advantage in future conflicts. In his heart, Fletcher began to conceive a training plan. To enhance the performance of carrier-based aircraft, improve the tactical training level of pilots, especially in night combat and air defense. He also considered strengthening intelligence collection and analysis, especially on the movements of Japanese aircraft carriers, in order to more accurately predict and respond to enemy actions. Strengthening night combat capabilities is one of Fletcher's key considerations, mainly based on the following reasons. The utilization of technological advantages. During World War II, the U.S. military was relatively advanced in radar and other night combat technologies. By utilizing these technological advantages, the U.S. military can achieve better combat effectiveness at night, especially in naval operations against the Japanese. Japanese night battle experience. The Japanese have strong experience and skills in night sea battles. They achieved success in many night battles in the early stages of the Pacific War, such as in the Battle of Solomon Islands. In order to effectively counter the Japanese army, improving night combat capabilities is crucial for the U.S. military. Reducing our own losses. The improvement of night combat capabilities can help the U.S. military effectively defend and counterattack at night, reducing losses caused by night raids. For example, improving the accuracy of night air interception and naval gun shooting can effectively defend against Japanese night attacks. Tactical diversity. Improving night combat capabilities also means that the U.S. military can be more diverse in tactics, including conducting active attacks or surprise attacks at night. The enhancement of this capability will give the U.S. military more choices and flexibility in confronting the Japanese army. Psychological tactics. Conducting effective combat operations at night can also create psychological pressure on the enemy and enhance the deterrence of the U.S. military. Successful operations at night can weaken enemy morale and establish a psychological advantage for the U.S. military throughout the war. Therefore, for Fletcher, strengthening night combat capabilities is an important strategic decision aimed at comprehensively improving the operational efficiency and tactical flexibility of the U.S. military, while effectively responding to the threat of the Japanese army. These changes require time and resources, as well as the support of other commanders and technical personnel in the fleet. He decided to have detailed discussions with his deputy and key officers in the next few days to develop a specific execution plan. In the darkness, Fletcher stood in front of the cabin window, gazing at the sea. Despite facing numerous challenges, he never flinched. As a historian, he has a clear understanding of the upcoming history. As a naval commander, he must also find his own role in this period of history. In 1941, Jack Fletcher commanded a task force squadron centered around aircraft carriers. This fleet is mainly composed of aircraft carriers, cruisers, and destroyers. The following is a specific list and analysis of warships. Aircraft carriers. USS Yorktown, CV.5. As the flagship of the fleet, it is an important aircraft carrier equipped with various types of carrier-based aircraft. USS Enterprise, CV.6. Another important aircraft carrier, also equipped with various fighter jets and bombers, plays an important role in long-range strikes and air support. Cruiser. USS Astoria, CA.34. A heavy cruiser equipped with powerful main guns and anti-aircraft weapons. USS Portland, CA.33. Another heavy cruiser with excellent firepower output capability. USS Indianapolis, CA.35. A heavy cruiser known for its excellent speed and firepower. Destroyer. USS Hammond, DD.412. A destroyer characterized by its high speed and flexibility, capable of effectively carrying out escort and patrol missions. USS Morris, DD.417. A destroyer with excellent air defense and anti-submarine capabilities. USS Russell, DD.414. As part of the fleet, it provides additional air defense and firepower support. In the task force commanded by Fletcher, the armed configuration of aircraft carriers and warships is the key to their combat effectiveness. The following is an overview of the aircraft models and artillery carried on these ships. The aircraft model of an aircraft carrier F-4F Wildcat. This is a flagship fighter jet of the United States Navy, known for its sturdy construction and reliable performance. It was the standard fighter jet on U.S. Navy aircraft carriers during the early stages of the Pacific War. SBD Dauntless. As a dive bomber, SBD Dauntless played an important role in key battles such as the Battle of Midway. It is known for its accurate dive bombing ability and good maneuverability. TBD Devastator. This is a torpedo bomber, although it gradually became outdated in the early stages of the war. It was still the main torpedo bomber on U.S. aircraft carriers before the Pearl Harbor incident. The artillery configuration of warships cruises. Cruises such as USS Astoria, USS Portland, and USS Indianapolis are primarily equipped with 8-inch, 203 mm, main guns, which provide effective naval firepower support. Destroyers. Destroyers such as USS Hammond, USS Morris, and USS Russell are equipped with 5-inch, 127 mm, main guns and multiple anti-aircraft machine guns, which play a crucial role in fleet air defense and close-range naval combat. Air defense weapons. In addition to the main guns, these warships are also equipped with multi-barrel machine guns and small-caliber anti-aircraft guns for air defense to counter the threat of enemy aircraft. Chapter 4. Facing Challenges. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. De co lois ara trong quatrin lay text. Chapter 5. Japanese Strategy and Debate. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. De co lois ara trong quatrin lay text. Chapter 6. Strategic Allies. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. De co lois ara trong quatrin lay text. Chapter 7. Yamamoto's Message. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. De co lois ara trong quatrin lay text. Chapter 8. Simulation Exercise. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. De co lois ara trong quatrin lay text. Chapter 9. Meetings of Senior United States Navy Officials. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. De co lois ara trong quatrin lay text. Chapter 10. The Addition of Bumblebees. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. De co lois ara trong quatrin lay text.